What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 235 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. My co-host with me, Alex.
Hello!
Joining us this week via the Skype is a man who's kind of like, we've talked about him, we've mentioned him, we've talked with him at show, but like it's the first appearance of our friend Kirby.
Hey, how's it going?
Kirby, thanks for coming on. This is long overdue. We had to take a rain check, unfortunately, a couple weeks ago because you were knee deep in Boston. But it's finally happening. It's here.
Kirby.
Yeah, that tends to happen.
Kirby might have been one of our first moments of, oh my God, somebody listen to the show. Because it was at Boston last year.
Yes.
And I was away from the table. The rest of the boys were there. and I come back and, like, as usual, the OMV guys are, like, all talking and laughing and having a great time. And I'm just kind of, like, hovering off to the side because there's no more room for anyone to get in. And then they go, hey, Jared's like, you have to meet this guy. This is Kirby. He listens to our show, and I was like, and he's like, the picture of our booth that was put on the Boston Comic Con Facebook page, he took it, and I was like, and then I was like, that's amazing.
It was neat. It was like the first time anyone has ever come up and said, like, hey, I listen to your show, and I'm not required to because I'm your friend.
Well, I really enjoyed the show, and I actually you guys gave me a pin, and I still have it somewhere in my pin collection.
I did. I forced a pin on you like immediately.
It was not a force. I took it because it was free.
But what really, I guess what really like got us was the fact that it's like, you know, hey, you know, because like we try to review the shows that we attend, whether we are actually like there as press or not. Like I've always made the joke of it, like we've covered New York Comic Con the past like 4 or 5 years. We have never once been accepted for press there, ever. But we still feel the need to tell people about it. And like what really struck me as cool was like you were like, yeah, we listen, you know, I like to listen to your reviews because you guys are honest and like blah blah blah. And it's not just like, oh hey, this guy said he was a fan, we're gonna come on our show because that's cool. It's like you like it.
Well, one of the things our friend
save me.
One of the things our friend Davis said is that if we see a positive, we'll talk about positive. If there's a negative, we'll talk about negative, and we'll talk about our gut reactions and our feelings about it. Because there's sometimes you could report on something and you could just be reporting and saying, this person was there and this person was there. And they were there from X time to Y time.
And it was cool.
But, you know, as much as we try to engage and react and experience things, then we could share that with people. And Dave was like, and it feels like I'm listening to my friends talking about things they've experienced. Which is how occasionally our Boston episodes go way over time.
We also spend a lot of, minus this year, we spend a lot of time at Boston. Mm-hmm. It's like the one show, well, Connecticut we spend a lot of time at too, but like, it's like the one, and because especially tabling there, we're there the entire time from open to close, and there's a lot to experience. And I mean, if we haven't made it exactly evident, Kirby is actually he's one of the people who helps Boston run. He's one of the people who makes the show go on. I believe you work a lot with the celebrities, if I recall.
Right, I deal with all the celebrities, including the green rooms and so on and so forth. But I also help develop the floor plan. I'm the one that generates it on the software.
Oh no, sure.
With other people. So what you see on the guidebook, you know, I've been responsible for with the team within the core. But you know, you see me like a lot of times running around.
It's true.
Dealing with other things. But you know, I do listen to not just your podcast, but other podcasts because it's good to hear like the goods and the bads. You know, sometimes the bad is hard, but we accept it. We know what, you know, it's out there. It's not like we're trying to make it up.
Right.
But that's how we become better each year, as we try to become better each year.
There have been times where even like we've gotten a little feedback here and there where it's occasionally just like a joke where last year we mentioned how the guidebooks were in the far back corner from the door. And it's
the supermarket milk strategy. I love that.
And he sent us a message saying exactly that. It's like, and we like our strategy for the supermarket milk.
Yeah,
go get your guidebook.
Yep, you got to walk past all the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's forcing you.
A
to
lot
go
of it
through
is also trial by error too. We try to implement different things. We see it at other shows. We see if it works here. We try to do some things out of the box to see if it works. Just because the space is a little bit challenging. And we have to kind of work around it as opposed to trying to do the standard norm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how quick that show almost outgrew such an enormous space, too. Especially because, the first year, we've told this story a dozen times, but first year when we were at the Heinz, it was at the Heinz, and or not the Heinz, the Westin, in the basement, and then it went to the Heinz, and now it's at the Seaport World Trade Center, which is a very large space, and the Boston Comic-Con effortlessly packs it.
Still saying it's tough to, it's limited space. It's are you kidding me?
Well, you should have been there day one back in 2007. It was in a 5,000 square foot ballroom in the basement of the John Hancock building.
How many square feet is the
World Trade Center?
The Trade Center? Do you know?
I think it's roughly about 100,000 or 125,000 square feet.
Good Lord.
So within 9 years we've gone that far. And I think it's a testament to the fans and also the market. There's a market for it here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we back in the day in 2007, it was a twice a year show, once in spring and then once in the fall. And it was a Sunday only. 10 to 5 or 10 to 6 or something like that. And now we're up to 3 days.
Right. Have you been with the show since its inception?
I was actually the operations and event manager at the venue when the promoter first came in and brought Boston Comic-Con and started it.
Huh.
And then, so that was in 2007. And then when they outgrew our space, they moved on, and I got a phone call from them saying, "Hey, you want to tag along? Maybe kind of hang out with us," which is code for let's try to get him to work for us.
They gotcha.
And the last time before 2007, the only time I ever went to a comic convention was back in the days when it was at the Park Plaza in the basement of that building. And those are those Sunday only comic shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've been with Boston Comic Con since then.
Right. See, we had on, and you mentioned other cons, which is good because while you work for the Boston, the main reason we're here, we're talking about a lot of conventions today because you are a convention connoisseur, if you will. You are you go to. If you want to hear all about Boston Con, go back. We had Bob Shaw on a couple weeks ago. If you just want to hear about Boston Comic Con, you can go back and listen to that one. But with Kirby, we're here to talk about all because you go to everything.
There's been times where we've talked about Hartford, and he's like, "Yeah, I was there," and we go, "Huh?
What?"
And he's like, "Oh, well, I can't, and we'll try to negotiate a day to have him on the show." And he's like, "Well, I'll be at Heroes Con this weekend." We're like, "You're going to Heroes Con?"
Which is in North Carolina.
It's Kirby's essentially living part of our dream.
I have been to quite a bit, and I shared those pictures with you guys on Facebook about all the badges that sprawled on my dining room table.
Yeah, that was.
So first of all, I thought that was just a desk. Now knowing it's the size of a dining room table, it takes up a lot more space than I originally thought.
I'm proud of my lanyard collection. I have it hanging on my wall, in the office part of my house, and mine is pennies. It's nothing compared to the pictures that Kirby was showing us. It's just a mound of convention lanyards, and that doesn't even count shows that doesn't do lanyards, because there are still some out there who just either wristband it or exactly, or even the smaller ones, you get a hand stamp,
Yeah. Here's a safety pin and a piece of paper. You're going to a museum or something.
So where did your affection for conventions come from? Did that come with working for Boston, or had you been going to conventions long before that?
No, actually, I've never been to conventions since Boston. So when Boston first started out, and I think in like about 2010, I decided, because I was becoming more involved with the show, that I wanted to know more about the convention scene and industry. So I kind of understood our attendee base. So I started going to shows and just being able to see how things are done at other shows, what's the norm, so that I could apply it in Boston. And it's kind of funny, in 2010 was the first year I actually went to San Diego.
Which is the big one.
The big one. So San Diego Comic-Con. And so I've been to San Diego Comic-Con. Now, I guess I'll just run it by. I've been to San Diego Comic-Con for 5 years straight. So 2010 to 2015, I've been there. I've been to C2E2, New York Comic-Con, all the local New England shows. Been to MegaCon down in Orlando. Went to AwesomeCon up in D.C., down in D.C., I should say. PAX East. I love PAX East.
I'm a big fan of that show.
I know you guys are. Just as big a fan as I am. Been to a couple Walker Stalker shows. Good Lord. And just...
Are you rifling through?
I am, because I'm kind of lost. I was saying, I was recently at Salt Lake Comic-Con, just to see how that is. And
just to see? That's like the other side of the country.
Well, I actually went with the photo company, Epic Photo Ops, and so, but it was kind of nice to see, because it was also Labor Day weekend. There were probably like 6 other shows running at that point.
Was that the same weekend as Dragon Con?
And PAX West.
Dragon Con. There was also Toronto Fan Expo.
So did Salt Lake City do the 4th day that other shows did, because it's Labor Day?
Well, so Salt Lake is in Mormon country. So it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday show. No Sundays.
Okay. Huh.
Oh, right.
And that's an interesting city, because everything shuts down at like 9 or 10 p.m. So when you're working the show, you get out, you're like starving. And so we ended up having to have like supermarket dinners as opposed to restaurants.
There's a lot of root beer.
Apparently, but I didn't drink root beer.
There's no caffeine in root beer, as there is in other sodas. And so Mormons don't drink caffeine.
Didn't know
Correct.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's a lot of coffee out there, though.
Maybe it's decaf. I don't know.
Yeah. So those are kind of the shows that I've been to. I'm sure I've been to others, like shows that I can't think of at this point.
Is it even worth trying to have you narrow down a favorite, or would it be more like subcategories, like which show is the best for
comics
or for Artist Alley, or just who had the best entry system?
No, exactly, because every show is different, and I always tell people when they ask me like what shows should I go to, or what's my favorite show, I tell them you have to kind of do your homework. You have to figure out what you're looking for. Like, you're not going to go to I'm trying to think here. Like, you're not going to go to like Walker Stalker and expect like a high-end like Artist Alley.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to do your homework and then figure out what you want to go to. Like, you don't come to Boston for all the celebrities, because that's just not how the show is. Or you don't go to like San Diego Comic-Con and you want gaming.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very easy for me to kind of narrow down my favorite show. Oh, I got to say Boston. I'm kind of obligated to say, but I really do love it. I love the art talent there. It's great. It's phenomenal. But in terms of like my favorite shows, I love going to PAX East. I just love it. It's great. It's just right up my comfort level. But going to C2E2 is fun too, because it's a way of getting the New York Comic-Con experience without all the hassle.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of good things about C2E2 and Emerald City.
I've yet to go to Emerald City. It's just when they run, it's also the worst time of the year for me. I'm always busy, so I can't make it out there.
Right.
But I love San Diego, and there's a couple of lessons from San Diego that I always tell people that you should go once if you're into conventions, because San Diego will teach you 2 very important things. One is patience, and one is you're never guaranteed anything. So if you get like a hot French fry, consider that a bonus. And that carries over because I think after going to San Diego, I go to all these other shows. My expectations are more manageable, and just because I don't get something, I don't consider that like my weekend's a failure.
Uh-huh.
You know, they at San Diego they kind of teach you to have like an alternate game plan or multiple alternate game plans, and so you try to enjoy the show even though maybe your primary goals aren't met.
I can see that.
And I tell people the same thing. You know, when you go to cons, you know, don't always expect that everything's going to happen for you. You know, you kind of have to also explore.
Exploring is one of my favorite parts of conventions.
You'd be surprised at how many people I run into where they just like, they have one goal, and if it's not met, the entire weekend's shot. And I'm just like, wow, really?
I can't tell you how many times I've brought, like, because like I try to think small, especially with the larger shows where we're driving a distance and getting back to the car might be difficult. I try to pack light and like precise. So it's like 2 years ago at New York, I knew Brian K. Vaughan was going to be there. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to bring like my Saga trade, maybe an Ex Machina or something like that. And that was like my one thing. I was like, if I get this, I'll be good. And we got to his table, or we got to the image booth 10 minutes after the show opened, and the tickets were gone. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And I moved on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh, I need to go post on the internet about this. I need to slam both Brian K. Vaughan, the Image, and the New York Comic Con for not supplying me enough tickets. Like, it's like, that sucks. I guess I'll just move on to the next thing.
I'm going to sit down for the next 2 hours, and I'm going to figure out some like horrible way to just flame everything I'm mad at right now.
I have a 1-day pass, so I'm going to waste half of that day just bitching and moaning about it.
I want to talk to the manager.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a bummer. It was a definite bummer. But he's also like, he's like arguably one of like the top 3 names in comics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you know, what do you expect? You got to get there like I thought we were there immediately, but 10 minutes was 10 minutes too late.
Was that last year?
It was 2 years ago with Will.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't go that one.
Yeah. Yeah, you were unfortunately indisposed.
I couldn't walk at the time.
And I think that's one of the things that's kind of tough, like when you're dealing with new convention people. They don't get that.
Right.
Yeah.
And they just think like, oh, that's my game plan, that's my shopping list. If I don't get it, wow, that's just going to be terrible, and I'm going to blame the show for it or blame other factors that play into it. And I always tell people, like, you go to a con, just have fun, you know, just have fun. And be open to things. And, you know, it's just surprising when you go to like a show like a Boston or C2E2 New York Comic Con where you have such big artist alley areas and people are just only singular focused on like celebs and panels and all that stuff. So you're missing a big deal of a show that you paid your admission for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of sad sometimes. Because for me, I appreciate it because I have to run around and work. But if I didn't, I'd camp out in like an artist alley and just like enjoy all the art.
Yeah. There's times where I don't always understand the people that will wait in line for a panel or like a preview show or something like that. It's like, oh, they might show footage from the next Netflix series, and I'm like, but we're all going to see it in a month anyways. But
you saw it first.
Does that really do something for you? I don't really. There's times where I don't really get it. Like I could see where it's neat, I could see where it's exciting, but I'm not going to invest that much time in it.
I mean, on the flip side, I imagine there are many people out there who are absolutely okay with waiting 3-4 hours to get into this panel, and who don't see like why would you pay that guy hundreds of dollars to draw you something? Like,
oh yeah, that's true.
You know, it wasn't even in a book. Was it in a comic? No, so it's just like a drawing. And how much did you pay? Like that's what, you know. So I guess everyone kind of goes for their own thing. Again, I'm with you. I just see like, oh, I waited 4 hours in line for the panel. Like in my head, I'm like, you probably missed out on so much.
Yeah.
But like, if that's what
But if they also got to see like the cast of their favorite show,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, that's pretty cool too.
Yep.
Well, that's kind of like at the beginning when I first went to San Diego Comic-Con, you know, as a newbie, I just kind of like, I was in shell shock. It was just like the whole thing. It was like walking through the front gates of Disney World for the first time. Just like, oh my God, like the music's running. I'm like, everything's like the heavens had opened up. But it was kind of now like being a seasoned person at San Diego Comic-Con, you know, I think in the 5 years, I've only sat in panels like maybe 3 times. And it you know, you hear all the stories, you know, Hall H and Ballroom 20, so on and so forth. And every so often there's like, I call it a twist or a turn, that something changes at San Diego. And one of the things like was a learning lesson is how early you have to be there. Early, like when I first went in 2010, I think the earliest I ever got there was like 6 a.m. and the doors open at 10 o'clock. But they bring you into the building at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And so, and then at 6 a.m., you're able to get into like Hall H, Ballroom 20, things like that. You might have a shot at some of the celeb autograph cast signing lotteries, or you might get a ticket to go to the Hasbro booth. And then I think 2 years after that, it became 6 a.m. was no longer valid. You had to be there at 4 a.m.
Jeez.
And then, so one of the big twists for San Diego was Twilight. When the Twilight series came out, the fan base started camping out overnight. And so then that kind of carried over. And so when things happen at San Diego, it just continues on. It never goes back. And so in 2015, Star Wars The Force Awakening changed all that as well.
Right.
So people were then camping out multiple days in advance. So I walk by people in line to go to Hall H, and hey, the line's moving. Oh no, we're here for so and so panel. It's like, it's Thursday. Your panel's not until Friday night. Alrighty then. So, and that's kind of like the testament for me about when I always tell people that, you know, they want San Diego Comic-Con experience, and say you really don't, because you're not prepared for it. Because you argue about like 30, 40 minutes, an hour. Talk to me after you've been in line for like 6 hours and still not get what you're looking for. Then we can have that discussion. But I think it's just, you know, San Diego is different. Everyone thinks like, why can't we have San Diego? Because it's just a press junket. That's all it is. And they think that you're going to have access to the celebs. No. You know, you're barely lucky to get into the panel. Right. And if you want the cast signed posters, you know, they're only limited to about 100 done per session. And they only do one session. And there's like thousands, tens of thousands of people there. And it's just not going to happen. And if you do, you're like very lucky. I just lucked out. Like, I think it was like my first or second year. I just happened to stumble onto a line for, I think, CBS, and they were handing out lottery tickets, and I pulled it, and I got an option to go to the Big Bang Theory cast signing. And so I got one. But, you know, I think in 2015, the last year I went, I didn't want to go to get a cast sign poster, but I just wanted to go up there and watch the mayhem. So I went up there, and so, you know, they had like the Game of Thrones cast signing lottery, and I watched people, you know, wow, the devastation in these people's face that early in the morning that they didn't get it while their friends are getting it. I'm like, wow, it's just it just kind of dawned that they had just one singular motive there, and now their whole day is shot. It's just, wow.
Is there a meme for like, what is it? Is there a Schadenfreude sloth or something? You know, like really animal pictures, like Insanity Wolf and those. Like there's a Schadenfreude something.
My mind just immediately goes to Skeptical Hippo. I love Skeptical. Anyways, that reminds me a lot of like New York. Like the first time in 2009 when we went to New York, when I was very green. Like, oh, we'll just drive there. Yeah, we'll get a hotel in the middle of New York City. We'll just casually park our car. No, you don't do any of that.
No.
Don't ever do any of that. You get a hotel outside of the city.
When you got that lottery ticket, did you have an item for them to sign? Like, did you run around the convention and like to buy that what was it, the Blu-ray?
No, so at San Diego, you're only getting whatever they're signing.
What they have in
cast
sign.
poster, right?
Okay.
So you can't hand them anything. There was one exception in 2015. I was able to get a Once Upon a Time cast ticket, and so actually they did it via Twitter, and so you had to go to the booth. Actually, you had to wait in line, go through the booth, go through the experience, and then they randomly select you. Off of because you have to take a picture and then post it on Twitter.
Okay.
And they randomly select
with a hashtag.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went through the experience, and then later on, probably like near the end of the day, I got a tweet and a direct message tweet. Say, hey, come by the booth. You got a ticket for it. And it turned out that I had ticket number 1. Wow. I was the first one. And so. And then I was able to go through it, and then apparently Lana Parrilla, who plays the evil queen, tweeted out, hey, if you have our Funko exclusive of Regina, bring it to the cast signing, and then I'll sign it for you as well. And so I actually had one and brought it down, and it was the very first one. I think it was the only one that she signed because no one else had it. So I kind of held on to that like it was like gold. To pry it from my cold, dead hands.
To attest to how much of a jerk I am, my first thought was ticket number 1, how much could I sell this for?
Oh, it's like kind of walking out of like the Blizzard booth at PAX East and people are trying to buy your codes.
Oh, dude, seriously. Like,
no.
That's the thing. Like, I never realized how big these codes were until PAX East. I remember... Because you get the swag bags, and they have like download codes for League of Legends skins, Dota skins, whatever. Yeah. And I remember the first year, I just kind of like casually like, oh hey, I don't play League of Legends, so I'm just gonna tweet out this skin.
Yeah.
And like immediately, I got like 4 messages like, oh, it's already gone. And I was like, oh my god. So like the next year, I used it. I was like, hey, at 7:00 tonight, like once we get back from the show, when we're at the hotel, I'm gonna tweet out this League of Legends skin, and we got like 50 followers, and I was like, "What is happening?" These people go crazy for their skins, and like you walk through the swag bag line, and there's people waiting at the end. They're like, "Yo, are you gonna use that skin? You mind if can I snag that skin?" Huh. It's a fake. I mean, I can't say much. This is the guy who spent at least $45 on loot boxes for Overwatch. Like, it is a fake piece of clothing, like a look for one character,
a digital item
in a video game.
It is not physically in front of you.
And like these people, like they go bonkers for it. I mean, it's rad because like it got us some followers, and then like the day after PAX, like our followers just plummeted again.
They unfollowed. Well, it's kind of funny because like when I go to like PAX East, when I go to any convention, I actually lay all my swag out on the sofa, and so I posted it on like Instagram or things like that. And then people like zoom in on like the League of Legends, but I hide the codes so I know like how valuable. But I get like Instagram like messages like from all over the world saying, "Hey, can I have that skin?" It's like, what the heck?
Have you ever seen the video of the guy who he was streaming on Twitch, and I think he was getting ready to play? It was like Grand Theft Auto or something when it had first come out. I can't remember what game it was, but he had downloaded it on Steam. So I don't think it could have been Grand Theft Auto. Anyways, he had downloaded a game on his computer, and he was streaming. He was getting ready to play it, and like he was like clicking screens, and like he like flashed the screen with the download code in it for literally a split second, and then like 10 seconds later, he's logging in and stuff. It was already gone. Someone had like already sniped it and redeemed his code, and like essentially stole his game.
Huh? Oh wow.
Yep.
Huh.
Well, it's just kind of the same thing with your badges nowadays. You can't take a full picture of your admission badge because it's got like your number, like barcodes. People can copy your barcode.
Yeah.
Like San Diego, like you don't want to take a full picture of your identification badge because it's got all that information that people can just copy and then like forge a badge.
Yeah, New York's trying to do a lot. They're kind of
the RFID.
Actually, I want to get your opinion on this, Kirby, because being you're so involved with conventions, both running and attending. Are you going to New York Comic Con next month?
Oh God, no.
Oh, okay.
It's too nerve-wracking to try to get a badge.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't like working New York Comic Con because then you're only stuck in a certain area.
Right. Did you see the way that they're doing badges this year?
Well, the last time I saw it was in 2015 as well, and it was just more like you tap in, tap out, like an RFID.
Well, with this year, like you had to make the profile on their website.
Oh yeah, it's like San Diego. You have to have a unique user member ID.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I didn't know that they've been doing that with San Diego because like this is the first time I've seen it with New York because they're trying to like counter the mobilized scalpers, the reselling of tickets,
the StubHub.
Yeah, they're trying to counter that. You had to make a fan profile. You could buy a ticket, but you could only use the ticket if you have a fan profile.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, you could only buy a ticket if you had a fan profile because they'd send you the link.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But then if you buy more than one ticket, then whoever you're buying for has to also have the profiles.
You had to link your pass to your profile. And if you like, if I bought a ticket for Alex, if like Alex was at work or something, I would have to have his profile information to link my ticket that I bought for him to. So like, it's kind of confusing, but like, and it kind of pissed off a lot of people too. And it was also a bummer because they released a bunch of tickets for people who had bought them but didn't link it to any profile, so they're automatically refunded.
Yeah.
And because I know my wife has mentioned that she wouldn't mind checking out New York because it's like comics and a lot of entertainment. I think she could actually find because she reads a couple comics. She reads like Saga and stuff. But like she's mentioned that she wants to at least see it one time, and I was like, oh cool, I'll get a ticket for my wife. And then I remembered that like no, I can't because she didn't set up a profile back in May, June.
And there was a deadline for the profile.
And there was you can't just haphazardly make one. There was a cutoff date. And, like, I can't just buy a ticket, and, like, if I were to buy one, I would have no profile to assign it to, and then it would just get refunded.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same process for San Diego.
Okay.
Like, you can log in, but so San Diego does, I don't know if you're familiar with how they do their process.
No, I had no idea that that's what they were doing.
So, if you have gone the previous year, you're automatically eligible to go into pre-reg. So that's done in like the fall,
right?
And so pre-reg is for those who have attended, had their badge, had their specific user ID code on the badge that would allow you to log in. And then and then the second time if you don't get your badge there, then you go into open registration, which happens in the springtime. And so if you're allowed to purchase, I think up to 4 people's badges, but you have to have all their login information. And again, that's all set up prior to the badge release dates. The other thing that's really interesting is the fact that they send you a PDF, which is probably like 6 or 7 pages long, and they literally tell you to read all of it. And as a newbie, I read it like 5 times. And I just don't want to take any chances.
Right.
And one of the things that's kind of funny is like, The Big Bang Theory, they had the episode where the guys were trying to log in and get their badges, and they just kept hitting refresh. and the one thing San Diego automatically tells you, and they tell you so many times, do not hit refresh.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, but you think getting a New York Comic Con badge is frustrating and like rage inducing. You should try and get one for San Diego.
Oh yeah, we've
because in the beginning they used to give you like a number where you knew where you stood in place in line when they generated the line.
Yeah.
Then like I think 2 years after that they took it away and all you get is like a spinning blue wheel. Just like oh good lord. And then you get like the yellow task message bar that says, "Hey, but we got tickets to WonderCon coming up." Like, no one cares. Or you get the notice of like, "Hey, Friday badges selling low," or so and so forth, or Saturday sold out, things like that. And the thing is, like, if you weren't ready, you could be sitting in front of your computer and you have to go pee or something.
Yeah,
you don't know where that's happening.
I actually had to bring my computer to work for New York tickets. And I figured it would be like, I'll get in a couple minutes. They seem to know what they're doing this year. It'll be fine. And like I'm messaging Alex the entire time. Like I had to take a really like I got to work and like within an hour I was like, okay, I have to take my lunch break because I have to do this. And it took a lot longer than expected to get in. But I know Alex waited significantly. We were refreshing at the same time.
Yeah.
And then I got in, and then Alex got in, and within those like 10 seconds, it was the difference of like 3 hours or something like that.
I waited at least an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Right.
Because then I had family coming over to help me do yard work and pull stumps out of the ground. So while my brother and my father are like tying ropes and chains to his truck to pull stumps out, I'm running into the house while they're like pausing to drink some water.
To check on Comic-Con passes.
To look at my screen to see if it's changed, to see if it's opened up so I could spend money yet.
Well, can it be any worse than Paxi's where they just say, hey, it's on sale now?
Right.
Like, what the hell?
That's their... And it's always sometime in November. A friend of mine claims that she like knows their algorithm or whatever. She's like, I always know when the passes are going to go on sale. That's how I get 3 days. Huh. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I just think you got lucky.
I think so, too. I don't buy that.
Yeah, I don't buy it for 1 second. But, what was I going to say? It's gone.
I think the only way that's happening is you know someone on the inside. And
exactly.
Like, hey, by the way, now.
Well, after talking to Jeff, like, maybe.
I know. I'll hit up Jeff in a couple weeks. Be like, hey, man, do you remember me? No. Oh, okay, that's cool.
Well, I think this year for PAX coming up, they're eliminating the multi-day pass.
I think I heard about
discount, that. So it's all regular price.
Yeah, you just buy like a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday,
Correct.
or all three.
Right.
Which, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like
Hey,
this would have been
okay with it.
Yeah. This would have been the first year ever that we could have actually been able to buy 3-year passes for New York. Mm-hmm. Since like New York really became something that I was telling my wife the other day. Remember when we went in 2009? I bought passes like the night before or something like that. Like I was just like, oh hey, let's go to New York.
Yeah.
I'll just buy a 3-day.
Yep.
And now it's the past 2 years. We tried to get 3 days, but you know, it was we talked at length about it. They're all gone while we're loading, so we never even had the chance to get them. This year we could have, and we were like, let's just do Friday, save some money.
I don't have the time.
Yep.
House mortgage.
Time, money, jobs. Yep. It's just wasn't in the cards. But PAX, I told last week with our chat with Jeff, like I am determined. We are at least going, because we've never been to a Sunday PAX. We've only been Friday, Saturday. We will go.
Okay.
We will go to a damn Sunday, and I will see Acquisitions Incorporated. But anyways, so not only are you a con guy, you seem to also be, because like you go to all the different genres of cons. One thing that especially got this show off the ground is our love of the art, and you seem to be a big art guy yourself.
I try to get, and again, it really only started in like 2000, actually probably like 2009.
That's when I got into it.
Where I just kind of decided, like you started off with like prints, and then it became like, I can get originals. I can, they'll draw whatever I want.
Yeah,
price.
It swallows you fast.
That's cool. And so I think one of the first like artists that I got original art from was Sarah Richard.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I just said, because she had, if you look at her art, it's quite different now than it was back in the earlier days.
Yeah.
And so she had prints, she had like a Deadpool print with like a gun and all that stuff. And so I have a lot of her old prints, and it's just kind of funny. I threw up on like Instagram, and she's like, "Oh my god, those are like so old." But I actually commissioned like, I think one of the first things I commissioned from her was, hey, I want like a Green Lantern, but like shooting out like a Captain America shield. And so she did that for me, and so it just kind of spiraled from there. I got a lot of her like original like small sketch cards,
right?
Which I threw it up, and all of a sudden people were, "Oh, can I buy?" I was like, "No." And it just kind of became like a thing for me at Boston, where I'm going to get at least like one original piece of art. And then traveling to different cons, it became like, who can I get access to? And so it just kind of evolved after that. And I have a lot of prints, but I have a lot of like original art, and I kind of scaled back a little bit because it's getting really, really expensive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like the prices have like shot up. It's just, and then God help you if someone just like explodes like an Erica Henderson, where it's just like, oh my God.
She's one who, I mean, again, it's something I mentioned in the past. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those people that it's like, I'm so happy when I see them doing well.
Yeah.
Because like,
Sure.
I remember when Joe first found her at Boston, the second year we tabled, I think, or first, I can't remember. And like we each went over and got like some like $40 headshots or something from her. And like now, I can't imagine she's charged. Like her stock has just skyrocketed.
You're even lucky if you can get something.
Right.
Like sometimes she's at a lot of panels, so she's hardly at her table.
Yeah.
Right.
But one of the things that I started like switching off of like the big name artists and looking for kind of the diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
In Artist Alley, or maybe even like small press or indies, and where the price point is a lot more affordable, but I think also the effort's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to make a name for themselves, and they get excited. Like I go to like the Massachusetts Independent Comic Expo.
Yep.
MICE, and you'd be surprised at how talented some of those people are, and the price points there are like ridiculously low. And you never know when someone's going to make it big, and you say, hey, I got it on the ground floor.
That was a big thing for Dave Mahan when he was starting up, and he still goes back to mice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You'd be surprised at who actually shows up there. Like some people just pop in, like, oh my God.
I'm looking at, because before we got started, Kirby sent us a bunch of his his possessions.
A little bit of a primer.
Yeah. And I'm peeping your Nooligan.
Which one?
It looks like it's not Black Adam, the female version.
Oh, Evil Mary Marvel.
Yeah. Trying to lift Thor's hammer.
Yes. But if you look at it, it looks like kind of like the evil mother from Coraline.
Yeah, that kind of
Which
like lends to his style. He does like I'm a big fan of his. I like Nooligan a lot. So like when I was scrolling through, I was like, oh yo.
And I actually so I got that at C2E2 last year. This past year.
Yeah.
And I really, because he had like the Beatles. Have you seen his Beatle print?
Yep.
So he had that. He had like the Han Solo Greedo kind of like companion piece. And then I kind of said, hey, are you? Because I had my sketchbook there. I hadn't really gotten any sketches at that point. I'm like, would you mind? Are you open? He goes like, this is the first one I'm doing all week. I'm like, oh wow. And so I kind of like tossed the idea. I said, hey, I'm doing this theme in the thing. And he goes, oh great. So what kind of character do you want? I said, well, I want something different. I said, oh, Evil Mary Marvel just popped in my mind. And he got so excited to do it. And he's actually a big like DC animated movie guy. And so we started talking about like DC animated films and how like they put Marvel ones to shame.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I also picked up like smaller pieces that he had done before. So he had like there's a Captain Marvel from DC, like Shazam, and then he had a companion piece with that, which was actually Billy Batson. So I got 2 of those. So I was buying a lot of stuff.
Like especially after talking to him again at Boston this past year, like he's someone that hopefully in the future we'll be able to get him on the show or something. He's one of those cool guys. He has a very unique style.
He's super friendly.
Yeah.
He is so engaging.
Yep.
Which is great. And I was bummed. I didn't even know he was at our own show. I'm like, what?
And he's very, because like he did a Kickstarter a couple months ago for an art book, and like in the video to the art book, it was just very, hey, I'm making an art book. It's going to be this many. It's very like it was very, it was calm, and like we were walking by his table this year, and like Colin was cosplaying Cassidy from Preacher. And like he was like yelling to him. He's like, "Yo, is that Cass?" And like it started talking. It was really cool.
But his table like doesn't lend towards someone you thinks is doing sketches.
Yeah,
because he has so much stuff, so many prints, and all his books are out, and like you don't see where he would sit down and draw.
He draws standing up,
like most of the artists.
He does, yeah.
The artists who are like at the tables.
He literally drew mine standing up the entire time at C2E2. It's just hilarious. I'm like, dude, there's a chair there. You can sit down. He's like, no, no, no.
So do you have like a favorite piece? I mean, it's the question that we have to ask. Like, collecting sketches, collecting originals. Like, do you have a favorite piece that you own?
I actually, it's the Tony Daniel piece, the big Wonder Woman
The Wonder
headshot.
Woman? I was just looking at that one. It is gorgeous.
So that was done in 2013. So I had actually commissioned him to do it because knowing that when he got to Boston, his line would be ridiculous.
Yep.
And so I jumped on it. I think I was early on in the slot. So he took it and he said, yeah, do it. And then, the whole thing happened in Boston where, I was at the convention center and waiting for the doors to open so we can get all the vendors in. And then it just went in like a lockdown and we were just like in holding period. And so it ended up being that like around 6 o'clock or 5:30 something, we called it, said not happening.
Because
but
that
we
was
had
the year
all
of
these, all these artists already at the hotel. So I went over to the hotel. So it became like BarCon.
Right.
And so I and it's just one of those things. Like I saw Tony at the bar and said, "Hey, so sorry about that." He said, "But I got your piece." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I'm cool now.
It's kind of like a weird thing. It's just like, yeah, wow. But it's like in the aftermath of all that.
That was.
But he had it, and it was like a really big piece. I was shocked at how big this piece was. It was like a big magazine cover size.
Oh wow.
And I had it at a steal. It was like. I think it was like under $150.
What?
and then he told me later, it's like, yeah, I'm not doing that for that price point anymore. But he enjoyed doing it, which was great. I love hearing artists say they enjoyed working on it.
Right.
Yep.
I think,
and so that's my prize one, I think, because it also has that sentimental value of the time frame of when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's always like you try to come up with like that original thing. Like, I remember I thought I was hot shit when I went to Cliff Rathburn, who's he does a lot of inks for, like, Walking Dead, Invincible. He's done a couple, I think was he on Blue Beetle with Kirkman? Or, I can't remember.
Takara, Blue Beetle?
No, I can't. I'm honestly just talking out of my ass right now. But I went to Cliff Rathburn and I was like, "Hey, man," because like at the time he was inking both Walking Dead and Invincible. So I was like, "Can you draw me Invincible as a zombie?" I was like, "I'm a genius. I'm brilliant. No one has ever come up with this, and he's gonna love the idea." And he was just like, "Yeah, sure, I could do another one of those." And I was like, "Oh, cool." It's like
I think. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think one of the other things that I've been doing, I try to do a little bit, is like, because I do see a lot of celebrities, and sometimes, well, I normally don't fanboy or anything like that, but there was the year that Chloe Grace Moretz was going to be at New York Comic Con, and I was already going to be there, and I said, well, I'm going to get an autograph from her, and so, but I didn't know what I was going to get autographed, so I thought, well, instead of like a photo that's on the table or things like that, I actually had Craig Rousseau do me a Hit Girl sketch.
Yep.
And so I brought it to the signing, and first she looked at it and she had to pick it. She picked it up. So, oh my god, that's really cool. and so, but it was kind of funny while I was standing in line. Everyone had photos or like movie prints and things like that she was going to sign, and they looked at my thing and like, where'd you get that from? I was like, I went and got it commissioned in an artist alley. And then people go, oh, maybe I should. No, you don't have time for it.
Yeah, you can't just have them bang it out.
You just can't run over there and someone's just going to like sketch it in like 15 minutes. It's
I
like,
guess you could buy a print.
Yeah.
But
and so I got that sign and I posted it, and it's so funny. Like people go, oh my god.
It took me a second to realize like there is other writing on there besides Craig's signature.
Yeah. So I there's another one I posted. It was I had Terry Randolph do a Supergirl one.
Yep.
And it's based on the TV show one because I actually went to C2E2 this past year and she was going to be there, so I got her to sign it.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's much more memorable for like people because it's different.
You're
not seeing it. It's kind of funny. Like I went to Philly Wizard World and I got to work next to David Tennant, and people were coming up with like. It always seems like someone has like the print that everyone wants signed, and so I'm like, oh my god, this person must be like raking money in hand over fist because that's all I was passing to David at that point. I'm like, oh my god, where is this booth? This guy selling this print. He must have like a wad of cash sticking out of his pocket.
I figure that's bringing up like an art piece is a really nice way to show fans what's possible. Because in my head, which is I'm probably kind of biased, I figure the people that go there specifically for a celebrity isn't exactly also there for the artists. And so a fan of a celebrity is going to bring up like, you know, an 8x10 glossy photo of something, or they're going to bring up the DVD cover or the pop figure or whatever. And then like when they could realize like, well, you can get something that's also drawn by an artist as well. Yes, you can have a guy over there at the other side of the convention like physically draw something for you. To me, because maybe I don't see it, but that would be like groundbreaking for someone who's like, well, I brought this picture, I brought this DVD cover.
I think the funny thing too is I've worked with celebs, and you know, some original art comes through and they sign it. They're like, oh my god, where's this artist? And they go into Artist Alley finding this artist so they can buy more stuff. And it's funny you should mention Newligan, because that happened at one of the cons I went to. Is that when the talent signed something, and said, where did that come from? And then they told him, oh, Newligan. And then he went out and tracked him down and then got a commission. So it's kind of fun to see that, where your talent is also that much into the art side of a con. But again, it's also much more memorable, depending upon who the artist and the celeb is. It actually can be quite valuable.
Yeah.
Especially when it's more than, I mean, because there's nothing wrong with it, but if you were, you know, take your Malcolm Reynolds gun.
Yeah.
If two people came up to me and they're like, hey, I got this stuff signed, and one of them showed me a DVD of Firefly signed by Nathan Fillion, and then the gun, like the gun with the stand signed by Nathan Fillion, I'd be like, yo, that stand is rad. Congratulations on your DVD. Like, you know, have fun. I guess you're gonna stand it up on your bookshelf. You know, like it's when you get like that really like the unique things, whether it's a gun stand or like an original piece of art from a separate artist who also admires. You know.
Yeah. When you know someone else is also a fan, you know.
Yeah.
How close do you like? So you say sometimes like you'll hand off the things, or you work nearby, or when you're organizing celebrities, like, have you seen really weird stuff come through for them to sign, or like, do you have time to like hang out and watch, or are you busy doing other stuff?
No, you know, I actually spent a little bit of time being like a handler behind the table with celebs, and so yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff. I don't think that anything surprises me anymore. Like, someone can hand me like a pink elephant, and it'd be like, okay, I'll just sign it. But I think for me, I think I'm always astounded at how much time and effort, like some of the personal objects come across the table. You know, like big scrapbooks, things like that, and it's nice to hear the stories. I don't think there's anything in particular that stands out, because at this point I feel like I'm a little jaded. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
You've seen it all.
Yeah, I mean, I find it funny when I see celebs trying to figure out how to sign things,
right?
Like a sonic screwdriver. Like, there's not a whole lot of real estate out there to sign.
Or
and so
a baby.
You watch people like kind of struggle with this stuff, and I just get a kick out of that.
Well, even then, like on Nathan Fillion's account, like that man knows what he's doing. Because I had like a silver Sharpie in my hand, or a silver paint pen or whatever, and the base to the Malcolm Reynolds gun is black, and he just like puts down what he had, and he picks up a blue. He's like, the blue is really going to make a pop. It was like a trust me moment, and I'm like, all right, whatever you want, Mr. Fillion. Captain Reynolds.
Well, because he's probably signed like 1 million of them.
No, he's only assigned one base to the Captain.
Really?
I'm hoping.
Oh, that's your image. Sorry, I don't mean to wreck it for you.
In the fantasy in my head, it's the only one.
Just like how my Invince zombie is the only one ever done, ever in the history.
But
well, I think it's kind of the same thing. I think when people have sketchbooks, everyone has a theme, and everyone tries to do a different twist on it. And so it's like it's nothing as deflating as someone going, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll do another one." It's like great.
Yeah.
It's, excellent.
Is
Can I
it
change that?
How is it watching the celebs try to either? I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. So sometimes Bruce Campbell will see someone who has like an entire back tattoo of all the Evil Dead movies, and sometimes he's kind of like, "Ugh, you did that to yourself." It's as a joke. It's like, so if a fan comes up, he's like, "Oh, I have a tattoo of you, David Tennant," like, do they react like in like, "Wow, that's awesome," or "What are you, crazy?" So I could figure there's always like something where someone would want to like be a little revolted but have to hide it.
I've been actually very fortunate with the celebs that I've been in close contact with. I've never seen anyone just like cringe. But I feel like a lot of the celebs that I've seen are very complimentary. And I think one of the things that, someone got a tattoo and all of a sudden they got like, "Oh, can you sign my arm?" And then I'm going to go right now and get it tattooed on there.
Yeah.
A lot of them, or most of the ones that I've seen, they go, "Wow, that's like serious commitment." And they're actually really impressed by it. Unless you get like into the like very creepy, like fan stalker type thing, But I haven't really seen that. Again, I think the celebs that I've seen at the shows that I've worked with, they're really enthused by the excitement from the fans, and it comes across that way. It's just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you got a tattoo, but that's excellent."
In Bruce Campbell's book, If Chins Could Kill, he mentions when someone brought up a rock and puts this rock in front of him. And, like, Bruce recognized it and, like, sat back in his chair because this person had gone to the house that the original Evil Dead was filmed at. And, like, the entire house had fallen down and burnt to the ground. And, like, this rock was, like, a piece of the fireplace.
Which is the only thing left, I believe.
Yeah. And, like, the fireplace was arranged in a certain way where it almost looked like it had teeth. So he essentially, like, took, like, this tooth rock. Like, Campbell recognized it right away and was like, "Why did you bring this to me?"
I think the ones that are funny are the ones that, like, people bring things from, like, early on in their careers. And they have that moment of trying to recall. And then all of a sudden, when you can definitely tell because you kind of see the light bulb like go off, and then like, "Oh my god!"
But that's fun for the fans too because I did exactly that one time. I brought a VHS tape of The Killer Tongue to Robert Englund at a horror show because Robert Englund he's like a prison warden in that movie. And, like, I put it down, and, like, he sits back in his chair and, like, kind of sighs. And he's like, "It's been a long time since I've seen one of these." and I was like, "When you sign it, can you, like, quote, like, F you?" Because so in his character in the movie has F-U-C-K tattooed on his knuckles. And he's, like, punching inmates. And he's like, "Read it, what's it say?" And there's a whole thing about it. But like he has FU tattooed on his knuckles, and I was like, "Can you write that on when you send her name?" And he's like, "Sure." And then the star of that is Mindy Clark, who also went on to be Lady Heather from CSI.
Okay.
And he's like, "That's Lady Heather," and I was like, "I know, I follow her whole career." But also to throw all the way back in the episode, we had to essentially like sit in a room that was almost like a panel room, and we sat in chairs until we could line up to then go up to get stuff signed. And as we're saying, like sometimes that cool thing at a panel is when you see celebrities and art, people come together. Bruce Campbell was at the same show, and Bruce like appears in the back of this room, yelling, "Where's that bastard Robert Englund?" And we're all like, and I'm like fumbling, like freaking out, reaching for a camera because Bruce Campbell and Robert Englund, they're in the same room and they're gonna shake hands and hang out, and like I get to talk about that moment, and then Jared Skolnick, who's one of our film friends. He's like, "I was there for that too." And Dave Zagorski, who is another film guy, he was like, "I was there too." We had never met until like 2 years later, but we were all in the room for the same event. Sorry, huge tangent.
So what's like we're kind of coming down on the end of both our episode and con season. What do you have left to? Are you going to be attending anything before it gets too terrifyingly cold?
Well, I'm from New England, so nothing's terrifyingly cold. So it's but I pretty much wrap up right after like Boston Comic Con,
right?
Because there's a lot of cons that happen before it. I pretty much like to like shut it down. If I go someplace, it's more like a spur of the moment type thing. I don't have any plans till the rest of the year, which is kind of good.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to just kind of chill, especially when you work for a convention and most of your year is spent like trying to plan for this convention. I can imagine it can burn you out if you don't take a little bit of time off.
I think it's just kind of managing your time. I know a lot of people that just keep on going like straight through. I tend to like having a downtime, like an off season, because nowadays like conventions start up as early as like January 1st, and so it's nice to have like a decompression time, also a reflection, and also with Boston you always got to plan not too long after it ends.
Right.
So,
do you feel? I mean, we've touched on this in the past, and when I remember when Wizard World shut down a couple of their shows. And like we were counting like what did they have, like 24 shows a year or something?
26
like
was
yeah.
When we counted it was 26.
Yeah. Do you feel that the convention oversaturation has started to subside, or is it? I mean, or do you even feel it's that way at all? Do you? I mean, I know there are some people out there who just feel like no, the more conventions the better.
I think that we're kind of seeing like the culling, I guess, of all the shows out there on the market.
It's a really good term for it.
Yep.
I think there's also the consumers, the people attending. They're being a little bit more selective nowadays because you can't. A lot of times you get to these one-nighter shows, but do you really want to take a chance on them?
Right.
I think, is there a bubble and is it on the verge of bursting? I don't really know. I mean, you kind of have that in the back of your mind that eventually, the real reason why these Comic-Cons are taking off is because of all the mass medias on in like movies, TV. It's all superhero stuff, and so that's driving the interest. I think shows that will survive are also ever evolving, and you have to, because you can't keep doing the same show over and over again without somehow keeping it fresh.
Right.
You can't have like these companies like a Wizard World where they do like tons of shows all year round. You're kind of like killing your own market too.
Yeah, but change is bad. I don't like when things change and are different. And I'm going to write about it on the internet.
Good change. I mean, look at Boston. Like from 2007 to now, it's gone through a lot of different iterations. San Diego's always changing, and I think you have to, because otherwise you become very stagnant. And then I think also you rest on your laurels.
Right.
I think change for a show is good because it challenges you to do something different and try to reach different markets. And I think the shows that will survive are the ones that kind of keep to their core tenet. So it's nice to have a comic-oriented show, but add more components to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys talk about it in your podcast, where you guys don't deal with anything celeb-wise. You guys are focused on all the comic sides of Boston Comic Con, and then there are other people that are focused on the celeb side and don't know anything about what you guys cover.
Yeah.
There's definitely times where I consider like stepping across that line, because when I went to meet Nathan Fillion, and then this year me and Brett both were like, should we go see Elvira? Because like,
you should have. She's a doll. She's amazing.
Because we're like, as like horror geeks, like in spooky boys, do we owe it to ourselves to go meet Elvira? It's like, did I miss that opportunity?
Well, I think it kind of boils down to what you guys say too. Explore. Reach out to a different part of a show that you're not normally accustomed to going to, and you never know what you're going to find.
Do you arrange like the contacts for the celebrities, or do they get to you a different way and you just work with them at the show, or do you have to like contact them and say, "Do you want to come do this show?" or however that works?
I don't book them.
Okay.
I deal with them once they've been confirmed. And a lot of times, like a lot of the agents and the handlers, they have my cell phone. Because I see them at other shows too. And, I communicate with them like on different timelines, things like that. But my interactions with a lot of the celebs typically are just as they arrive or in town. And the nice thing about it is I don't really fanboy, fangirl. I'm really more focused on the schedule. You have to be here. You have to be here. And just kind of moving people around.
It takes a certain kind of man, because I would just be like, "Oh, hello, Nathan."
You have to have a switch. You really do. Otherwise, you're never gonna get your job done.
Yeah.
True.
It's a friend of ours worked like concerts for a while, and he would do a thing to like book some of the people that would perform, and he mentioned Pitbull, and like one of his friends was like, "Do you have Pitbull's phone number?" He's like, "No, I have the phone number of the guy who stands next to Pitbull."
I think that's one of the misconceptions about dealing with the celeb side. People think that I'm friends with everyone. The answer is no, because they go to so many different shows. They may be very personable and friendly at your show, but once they leave, the next time you probably see them, like maybe 6 shows later, like 5 months down the line, they barely recognize you.
Right.
And so there's that kind of acceptance that, hey, it's just momentary, but that's okay. The point is you're focused on their experience, on the attendees' experience, and that's what matters.
It's true. Kirby, we have sadly just about run out of time, if I'm doing my math correctly. Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for coming on. My man, congratulations on another successful Boston.
Sorry it was so hot this year.
Hey, man, it happens.
You can't control the weather?
42 degrees, man. That's what the AC was pumping.
Yeah, I meant to mention that, like, as kind of like an addendum to our Boston episode. Like, we, the main thing that we kind of griped about was, man, it was hot in the building. I wish to turn up the AC. The AC was on, so like it was out of their control. What do you say, Kirby? It was 42 degrees. It was set.
The engineers were telling, and then they were giving the readout that it was pumping 42 degrees into the exhibit hall. But because it was so hot outside, it was like an oven around us. It wasn't going to happen.
Right.
But
people tried to have fun, which is.
I still had a great time. I got my stuff signed. I watched a guy have a mental breakdown when he was told that he had to pay for a CDC signature. It was a good time. I saw a lot of my friends. It was another great show. And I can't wait for next year, man. What else am I gonna go out with? I don't know. You're not gonna be in New York, so we won't see you there. But
no, but I wanna hear your podcast after you review it.
We'll see. Maybe, we've been known to talk about shows, so. But I'm sure we'll have plenty of stuff to say.
Or when Paxi's tickets go on sale.
Oh my god! See, I had up until recently, I had a conversation in my phone saved from someone that I really don't talk to that often. But I refused to delete the text messages because the last texts we had were, "Oh my god, PAX tickets are on sale for 2 years ago." So I was like, okay, so last year they went on sale on November, it was like the 15th or something like that. So like, it's probably around that time, and like I'd have to go back and consistently check. Well, last year they went on sale, and I think this past year they went on sale like a week later. It was still they go on sale in November typically.
You don't already have it figured into your algorithm?
I know. I got to hit up my friend and find out the code.
Just make your own algorithm. It's easy.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code of PAX tickets, which apparently exists for people who just don't work at PAX. Anyways, but yeah, I'm sure we'll have plenty to say. Thank you so much, Kirby, again for coming on, for showing us and telling us all about your collection, safe travels for all your conventions next year if we don't talk to you, if we don't see you. And thanks. It was fun. It was good shit.
Oh, thank you. I've been dying to get on this podcast.
I know.
Ever since you invited me first, I was like, oh, I keep missing it.
We made it happen. We captured the dream.
There we go.
But yeah, that's going to do it. I have to go to work. Lucky me. So until next week, I am JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Kirby.
And this has been episode 235 of Opinions May Vary.